Hello AOS fans, Robin here. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of my first preparations for the Grand Clash, which is now just over a month away. And I'm going to start by looking at playing Stormcast. So that's my plan. This is a Stormcast deck. I may yet switch to Oryx. And as Peter said to me, that with the new cards now imminently arriving, I think the pre-order for the new cards, the Skaven and the Dwarves, is the 10th of February, which means they'll be available to buy a week later on the 17th. With that in mind, I imagine the deck will change before we get to the Grand Clash, regardless of how the play goes. Even if I play brilliantly, I'm sure there's going to be some better cards. So this is not going to be my final deck by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a deck. So let's see what we've got. So we'll start with my objectives. And I've got lightning strikes. Score this immediately if an enemy fighter is taken out of action by a charge action. Always a good Stormcast only card there, worth having. Crushing force, another score immediately. If you take twice as much damage as is needed to take the target out of action. Remember, if you're playing this one, if you can whittle your opponent down to 1, it's quite easy to score. Reaper. Score this immediately if a friendly fighter's attack takes 2 or more enemy fighters out of action. I should be looking at Oberyn for this one, maybe. I reckon this is a nice offensive card. If the fates are with me, then I can score that one, and it's a score immediately. So that's 3 score immediately cards in there, and then now a card that I can score if things are going not so well. Ploy Master. And another card that I can score if things aren't going quite so well. Geared for War. Score this in an end phase if each of your surviving fighters, at least 3, has 1 upgrade. I'm not sure how well this will work for Stormcast. It didn't work very well in my last game because I made a mess up. You've got at least 3, so as soon as one's dead, then you can't score it. And similarly, my next card, Brawl, score this in an end phase if all friendly fighters, at least 3, are adjacent to enemy fighters. Seize Ground, score this in an end phase if you hold an objective in enemy territory. I haven't really gone for very many objective-based cards, but this is one because my plan basically is to push into Pete's area. So I've got Swift Advance, score this in end phase if all your surviving fighters are in enemy territory, and Conquest, score this in the 3rd end phase if all your surviving fighters are in your opponent's territory. So that is what I will be trying to do, push into Pete's area and stay there. And if that's not working, then I can fall back on Consecrated Area, score this in end phase if there are no enemy fighters adjacent to your fighters. Sigmar's Bulwark, always a good one to have. Even if you're dead, you can score some glory. And Annihilation. Now, I don't normally play Annihilation, but over the 3 games, I reckon I might get it in. And somebody pointed out the total glory in a tournament can be quite important. So I've put Annihilation in there, partly for that reason, and partly because it gives me another alternative to the Conquest strand. So with playing 3 games, if your opponent cottons onto what your deck's doing, it can be easy to stop. I've given myself another alternative, Chase the Annihilation. So that's my objectives deck. It's pushing into my opponent's territory, trying to hold an objective, trying to stay there really, and hopefully kill some things along the way. We'll see how we go. And there we are. So what ploys have I got to help me along the way? Well, I've got Healing Potion because that's something I always have, and I've got a sort of standard set of Confusion, Sidestep and Sprint to help with mobility. Along those lines, I've also got Distraction, which pushes an enemy fighter, Peal of Thunder, which pushes an enemy fighter, and then Shardfall to cut them off. Maybe I think I've ever managed to play Shardfall, even though I have included it in a few decks now. And then to help me if my manoeuvring hasn't gone very well, I've got Illusory Fighter, and then to help Oberyn on his way, I've got Mighty Swing, which enables him to target 2, or more than 2, all adjacent fighters, and Righteous Zeal, +1 damage to the first attack action with a range of 1 or 2, so +1 damage on Mighty Swing would be pretty tasty. And for the more astute amongst you, I noticed that that's 10 cards already. I have actually added an 11th Ploy, Jewel of Wits. Play this when an opponent plays a Ploy, draw 2 power cards. And now what upgrades have I got? Started with Soul Trap. I think it's a good card to have for Stormcast, especially. But it is better if you remember to play it. I forgot in my last game. I played it and then didn't use it. They get a 50-50 chance of bringing somebody back. Helpful Whispers. If this fighter has no adjacent friendly fighters, then he can roll singular fists. Again, useful for Stormcast. They tend to go roaming as they batter things down. Blessed by Sigmar is +1 wounds. Legendary move is +1 movement. Giant Strength +1 strength. Great Fortitude, another +1 wounds. And Great Speed +1 movement. I wasn't sure about whether to have 2 +1 movements in the deck, so I've gone for it in the end. It has given me a total of 11 cards. We'll do when I tell you the others, but I might regret that. But again, mobility, I like to be more mobile, so we'll see how that goes. Blessed Armor, when you roll a critical for this fighter, when they're targeted by attack action, remove 1 wound token from before any damage is dealt. Could be very useful for Stormcast. And then Shade Glass Darts, a big favourite of mine. Shade Glass Darts, got to put it in there. It is in there, good for shooting people, good for knocking people away. With three swords, got a good chance of hitting, +1 damage if it's a critical. 3 chances of getting criticals, so I think that's worth having in any deck. And my final 2 cards are Cursed Artifact and Army of One. They can team up to make your Stormcast pretty resilient, and I'm actually going to do a little video for you just highlighting that. But that's in there for when I get into the opponent's half and I can beef one of my players, and actually I don't mind so much then if my other 2 die. They can go on a rampage because Army of One should hopefully survive to the end, and I can pick up Conquest and the other one. That's my plan, so we'll see how it goes. The focus on the games we're having will be actually on seeing whether we can get the games done in the time and getting used to playing in more tournamenty conditions. In some ways the deck is of secondary importance, but we're going to have a good game. Hopefully that will lead to 3 good games, this deck, and then we'll make some tweaks when the new cards come out, or if it fails horribly. So until next time, take care, Agents of Sigmar fans, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.